So last class we talked about the process of encoding. We started with the information processing model and the process of getting information into memory. So as we've talked about, am I lagging right now? I am. Oh, okay. It looked like on my camera that like I was just like buffering a little bit. All right. The process of encoding. So we've talked about the information processing model, which is encoding, storage, and retrieval. And then there's also the three-stage model, which is the three different stages of memory. Encoding is what happens in between each one of those stages. All right, so coding happens right here, all right, going from sensory memory to working or short-term memory, and then from short-term memory into long-term memory, right? In between those, we have levels of storage. We have what's called sensory memory, we have what's called working or short-term memory, and then we have what's called long-term memory. Now, the types of memories that are not necessarily encoded are automatic memories that are automatically processed, because that just kind of just happens automatically. So, the ones that are encoded are more so the effortful processing ones. But right here is what is called the three-box model or the three-stage model or whatever you want to call it, three anything. All right, so we're going to talk about these three stages of storage today. The first level of storage, the first, we could call it holding cell for memory, is what is called sensory memory. Sensory memory is essentially a quick flash of every sensation that is coming into our brain at any given second. It's essentially a split-second holding cell for all sights, all sounds, all smells, all tastes, all touch, all temperature, all pain, all that stuff. All of these sensations come into our processor, our brain, but not all, again, I can't really write on this when I'm recording, not all are consciously processed. But the purpose of sensory memory, and again, this is a split-second thing, and we don't even form this stuff, we don't even form most information into memories unless we selectively attend to it. But the purpose of this level of memory is to briefly keep information around after the physical duration goes away. Okay, so think about like as you are looking around the room, right? As you're looking around, your brain is processing everything that you see, but for the most part, you're not committing any of it to memory. And as soon as you look away, it leaves what's called our sensorium. Okay, so just a split-second holding cell for memory that the brain unconsciously processes everything going on around us, but does not really pay any attention to it. So this was discovered by a guy named George Sperling, where he did an experiment where, and we're going to do this, where he flashed 12 letters for a split second, and he wanted to see how many of the 12 letters that he flashed to a participant were they able to remember? All right, and so we're going to do this here in a sec, but information, so once information comes into sensory memory, the stuff that is selectively attended to is briefly transferred over into short-term memory. All right, and we're able to hold stuff in short-term memory for a couple of seconds. All the rest of it is not transferred and is therefore forgotten. So you're going to see this here in a sec. All right, so this says, just so you know, that says STM, which is short-term memory. Or it's also called working. Anything that you are selectively attending to, meaning paying attention to, is briefly transferred into short-term memory. And then if we rehearse it, then it gets transferred into long-term memory. But sensory memory is just all of the different sensations coming in at any given time, most of which we don't consciously process. So what I'm going to do, and that says working right here. What I'm going to do, so I'm going to flash, I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1, and then I'm going to flash a set of 12 letters on the screen for a split second. And I want you to put in a private message to me, don't put it out to everybody, how many of the letters can you remember, or which letters can you remember? Put which letters you remember. All right, which letters can you remember after the set of 12 letters goes away? It's going to be 3 rows of 4 letters each. All right, does everybody understand? All right, so 3, 2, 1. Oh, hold on. All right, I don't know why that happened. 3, 2, 1. All right, which letters can you remember? All right, so looks like a lot of people put their focus on the top, like the first thing they looked at was the top row. So a lot of people could remember the top row, but did you remember any of like pretty much all, none of the other ones you could keep in your memory, right? Okay. Now the thing is there, your brain actually saw all of the letters, all 12 of them, your brain was able to see. But because you were selectively attending to the top row was the only part of it that was transferred into working memory for a couple of seconds, for long enough for you to be able to remember it, right? So that's what sensory memory is. Sensory memory is all of the letters went into your brain, but you weren't able to hold on to all of them, right? So, you know, it looked like, oh, how this class remembered so many of them. All right, okay, so we're gonna do another trial. All right, we're gonna see how you do on this one. This time I'm gonna count down 3, 2, 1, but before I flash them up there, I'm going to say either high, middle, or low. All right, and what I want for you to do is, if I say high, that means I want you to remember the top row, middle, the middle row, low, the bottom row, right? And so it's going to be for the same amount of time, all right? But I'm just going to tell you where I want you to focus. All right, everybody ready? Okay. 3, 2, 1, middle. Okay, and put in the chat, what do you remember? What do you mean you did not see? Nothing showed up? Okay, all right, guys, I get it. You didn't see anything. I don't need every single person to. It was all. What is going on with my computer right now? All right, well, let's try this then. Same thing. We'll do it on the third one. Okay, all right. I'm going to say high, middle, or low. All right. 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, low. Okay. Why is this not working? All right, hold on one sec. Well, can you all still see my screen? I wonder if am I just flashing it so fast that I wonder if my computer's lagging. I wonder if my stuff is lagging and that's why it's not working. Well, either way, okay. What do you think if we were to on that one, if I were to say high, middle, low, what do you think is gonna how well do you think people are gonna remember that row? Okay, easier to remember because you're focused on it. Whereas the first one, I was surprised at the amount of people who got the top row. The first one, you should be able to remember a couple of them. But then on the second trial, because you are selectively attending, you are focused on one thing, you wouldn't be able to remember any of the other ones, but most people would be able to remember the one that I specified. So there are two types of sensory memory that you need to know. Iconic memory. Anybody have a guess? What might iconic memory be? What sense? What sense do you think iconic memory would be? Yeah. Yeah. Iconic, like an icon on a computer, all right? Photographic is not a sense. Okay. Vision. All right. Our sensory memory for visual information lasts for a little bit less than a second, unless we are selectively attending to it. Think about, how often do you pull your phone out of your pocket to look at what time it is and then put it back in and you're like, shit, I have no idea what time it is. Like you looked at it, but you didn't actually process it, right? That's because that information went into your sensory memory, but you weren't selectively attending to it. So it was in and out of your sensory memory as quickly as possible, in less than a second. We can demonstrate iconic memory relatively easily. Everybody, put your hand up in front of your face like this, okay? And look at your hand and then wave your hand back and forth. Does everybody see a trail? Okay. meaning like you should see, it should be, your hand should be blurry. All right. That trail that you see is your brain's memory of where your hand just was. Right? So when you see that trail, because our brain can't process, it's going too fast for our brain, like the frame rate of it is going too fast for our brain to process it. That trail that you see is your memory of where your hand was a split second before. Same thing like when you look at a fan, or if we do like the rubber pencil illusion, that's your memory, that's your sensory memory of where it just was. Now, does anybody have a good, can think of a very obvious mnemonic to help you remember which sense iconic memory is? It's pretty obvious. The first letter is I. Yes. Iconic memory. It's your eyes. Yep. The other one that you need to know, I don't even know what the other ones are, what all the other senses are called. The other one that you need to know is echoic. Anybody have a guess what sense echoic is? Hearing. Yeah, audition. Easy to remember that one because it says echo, and an echo is a sound. Okay, and if you think about, like, if I clap, right, and you hear that echo for a second or two, that is your echoic memory. It's still processing. It's just holding it in your memory for a couple of seconds. Now, echoic memory lasts longer. Like, we are able to hold sound in our sensory memory to transfer it to short-term memory for longer than we can hold visual information. If vision dominates all of our other senses, why does echoic memory last longer than iconic? Anybody have a guess? Sound takes less time to travel? No. Yeah, more. Yep. All right. So it takes longer to travel. So we kind of need to slow it down a little bit. All right. Anybody else? Why might our echoic memory hold information for longer? All right. There's more visual information. At any given point, you are bringing in millions of pieces of visual information per second. Whereas with hearing stuff, it's not quite as much. But then also, it takes us longer to process language than it does to process visual information. So we need to be able to hold it in there for longer so that we can actually, have you ever had like one of those things where like somebody says something and you don't really process it, and then like 2 seconds later you're like, wait, what they just say? Like, or it just takes a little bit longer for us to process that stuff. So sensory memory, split second holding cell for all the sensory information that comes in. Most of it is lost almost immediately. But what is not is transferred over to the next level of storage, what is called short-term memory. Okay, so there's sensory. If it's not encoded, then it's forgotten, right? But if it is, then it is transferred over relation that, like how we, by listening, lecture, or listening to lecturing or reading. It plays a little bit into that, although the idea of learning styles is not necessarily a real thing. It's kind of that's kind of a myth. But that's why, you do actually learn. Most of us learn better by listening to somebody else, but if you think about it, if you're just trying to learn something just by listening, think about that capacity of sensory memory. It's not long enough to really hold enough information. So All right. So now we're talking about what is called working or short-term memory, which is a slightly larger capacity, slightly larger and longer capacity than sensory memory does. Short-term memory is essentially what we are paying attention to. What we are paying attention to is transferred into this holding cell, what is called short-term, or what is now referred to as also as working memory. Basically, it's called this because it's essentially what we are working with at the moment. What our brain is actively processing. So for instance, you listening to me and like taking notes is being processed by your short-term or your working memory. For the purpose of this class, the two terms are basically synonymous with each other. But this can either be new information like what you're getting right now, or it can be information that you have retrieved from your long-term memory. So if I ask you what your phone number is, okay, you say 336-337-45, blah, 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 okay? Your ability to pull that information from your long-term memory into your working memory, all right? That is your working memory, right, that you are using. Now, short-term or working memory is limited. We can only sort of deal with about 5 to 9 individual pieces of information at once, or 7 plus or minus 2. Our brain can kind of only, that's why multitasking does not work. Okay, if you're trying to text and listen and write at the same time, all right, that's sort of overloading your short-term or your working memory. All right, but we can hold about 5 to 9 pieces of information for about 20 seconds maximum. It's more like 12 seconds. And for some things, like for letters, it's a little bit longer than for numbers, but for about 12 to 20 seconds. And that's why, like those of you that take notes, by trying to write down every single word, that's not good. That's not a good way. You're overloading your short-term memory, and you're going to, you're probably going too slow to keep up with what's being said. So we're going to do a little activity just to demonstrate what we mean by 5 to 9 pieces of information. I need everybody to get a sheet of paper and a pencil. Okay. All right. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off increasingly long strings of numbers. And while I'm reading them, you're just going to listen, and I'm going to read it off, and then I'm going to say go. And when I say go, I want you to write down the string of numbers that I just said in the order that I say them. Okay? And we're going to see how you do with this. So everybody understand? All right. And if I start lagging during it, just tell me, because it looks like, I don't know why. It seems like the internet past couple days has been like really bad. Like it's been really bad at my house, and I live right outside of Uptown. And then it seems like it's bad down here right now too. All right, everybody ready? 9, 7, 5, 4, go. Six, 8, 2, 5, 9, go. No, you're writing it down, guys. You're not putting it in the chat. I told you to get a piece of paper and a pencil. All right, here's the next one. 9, 1, 3, 8, 2, 5, go. 6, 4, 8, 3, 2, 7, go. 5, 9, 6, 3, 8, 2, 7, go. 5, 3, 1, 6, 8, 4, 2, go. 8, 6, 9, 5, 1, 3, 7, 2, go. 5, 1, 7, 3, 9, 8, 2, 6, go. 7, 1, 9, 3, 8, 4, 2, 7, 3, go. 1, 6, 3, 8, 7, 5, 9, 4, 2, go. Nine, 1, 5, 2, 4, 3, 8, 1, 6, 2, go. 1, 5, 2, 8, 4, 6, 7, 3, 1, 8, go. All right, now what we're going to do is I'm going to go back through those, and if you get it correct, and let's get it, guys. I really get to, I'm asking you all very nicely to have your cameras on, okay? And that means leaving them on. All right, so I'm going to go back through, And if you got it correct, I just want you to raise your hand. Okay. All right. First one, 9754. Okay. Hopefully, pretty much everybody hopefully got that one. That's only only four digits. Should be able to do that. 68259. Okay. Most people got that. All right. It's 5. 913825. Okay, all right, so still most people got it. We're at 648,327. All right, so now's when you're going to start seeing people falling off. 5963827. Okay, all right, so we've lost about a third, it looks like. 5316842. Okay, all right, starting to lose. 869-51372. Okay, all right, so there we go. We're at 8 right now, and you can see we've lost a lot of people. 517-39826. All right, who all got that one? All right, Avanti. Okay, Dean. Okay. 719-384-273. Anybody? Anybody? Okay, so you can see we're at 9, right? And falling off, pretty much nobody's gotten it. 163-875-942. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all right, 6 of y'all. 915-243-8162. All right, well, Mads got that one. Okay, anybody else? All right, Avanti. All right. 152-846-7318. All right, Taylor. All right, is that it? All right, so you can see, guys, as we got closer and closer to getting up to 9 digits, less and less people were able to remember them. Now, I did do something there to make it harder for you to remember them. Did anybody notice what I did? Did I? If I started saying them faster, I said it in a very robotic voice. Yes, said it in one straight line. It's actually really hard to do that. Because we automatically chunk things, you can tell the second time I read them as chunks. It's really hard to read like each individual number. I actually kind of lose track of it a little bit. But, one of the things with short-term memory is, how often have you been like your mom has asked you to do something and you hear and you're like, oh, okay. And then you look at your phone and then like 20 seconds later, you're like, shit, I have no idea what I was supposed to do. All right. Short-term memory is very, very susceptible to interference. We can be thinking about one thing and then have something distract us, and that can completely get rid of the memory that we were having before, of what we were thinking about before. All right, so are there any questions about short term? All right, you tried saying the first 5, but I zoned out on what you were saying. Yeah, and with this, anybody notice like if you were able to remember the first couple of them, you couldn't get the second group of them because like you were thinking about the first 4, and then I said like the last 3 and you weren't able to get those because you were trying to chunk it in your mind, but I wasn't actually chunking it. And so you can see that's what happens with short-term memory. We can only work with a small amount at a certain time. They actually think, I'll maybe bring this up later on, but they found that chimpanzees have much, much better short-term memories than we do. And I think this is fascinating. And they think it's because we basically, in the process of evolution, humans chose language over short-term memory. Like it was like a one or the other. And our brains chose to have language while chimps' brains chose to have longer short-term memory. Actually, I have a video. Maybe I'll show, when we get to language later on, I'll show it because it's actually pretty fascinating. At least I find it fascinating. Okay, now, the hell does it keep? Oh, this is the end of this. I do this. I've done this every class. All right, that's the end of this PowerPoint. The other one is for today. So go ahead and get that. And I'll try to get through this as fast as possible. So, if information that is in short-term memory is properly rehearsed, all right, is processed. We talked about it last class. You know, we have shallow processing, which is where we just basically memorize, and then deep processing, which is where we give information meaning, right? Either way, as long as we rehearse it enough, it is then transferred into a relatively unlimited holding cell, right, into relatively unlimited memory, what is called long-term memory, or LTM, which has, they believe, unlimited capacity and is somewhat permanent. A lot of it is permanent. Some of it's not, but a lot of it is. So this is the final level of storage, okay? Unlimited storehouse of information of explicit memories, which for the most part take effort to remember, to encode. And we're going to get deeper into these, but we talked about these last class too. It's take effort, and then implicit memories, which are for the most part automatic. And actually, implicit memories are not transferred through short-term memory, right? They are actually just, they're kind of immediately transferred to long-term memory. Okay. Explicit or conscious memories, also called declarative. Does anybody remember from last class, why are these called declarative memories? We talked about it last class. Right? Because one can say, I know, we can consciously declare them. These are like what we think of when we think of memories. This is what we think of. You can say, I declare that I know that John F. Kennedy was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963. Okay? Right? They are things that we know and that we can say. Or we could say that we can explain them. Explain, explicit. Now, there are two types of these. Semantic memories are facts and general knowledge. Okay, things that we learn in school. And then there are what are called episodic memories, right, which are experienced events, memories from our life. Okay. I know that my birthday is January 29th, 1987. Okay. I know that on this date, blah, 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 I remember when this happened in my life. We can think about this like an episode of a TV show. If you think of like an episode of The Office is about all the employees of Dunder Mifflin life, like just daily life. And if you want to tie this to an episode of The Office, you could think like, all right, episodic memory, type of explicit memory, and then there's the episode where Michael declares bankruptcy, is declaring something. All right, so semantic memories, facts and general knowledge, and then episodic memories are life events. These are things, right? Most of these memories are done through effortful processing. Okay, and the hippocampus. We get kind of confused. We think the hippocampus is where memories are stored. Memories are not actually stored in the hippocampus. The hippocampus is what processes explicit memories. That says processes. Essentially, the hippocampus is the save button for this type of memory. These memories are stored mostly in the frontal lobe of the cerebral cortex. And our ability to store these types of memories, because they are conscious memories, our ability to store these types of memories are what really makes us human. Now, like some animals can do this, like I think elephants can kind of do this. I think dolphins kind of do, but like dogs don't have explicit memories. Like dogs don't sit around and like reminisce and be like, dude, you remember that walk we went on like 2 years ago? That was a hell, or like that time, both of us were humping this, like that was a great time. Right? Animals don't do that. Animals, their behavior is just automatic. Whereas we can consciously remember these things. That's something that is just like basically being like classically conditioned. Yep. All right, so explicit memories we are consciously aware of, things that we know, right, and things that we remember about our life. The other type are implicit memories, so-called non-declarative, right, or non-conscious, right? These are things that we can do. They are automatically processed, meaning they don't really take any conscious effort. Things like automatic behaviors, like instinct in animals, and reading. Once you learn how to read, it becomes automatic, it becomes implicit. Procedural memories, skills, reflexes are implicit, yes. You just always automatically, or actually reflexes are not even that, because reflexes take place in the spinal cord. So there's no brain involvement in. So I guess we could say there's some sort of memory there, but that procedural memory, skills, things that we can do, what we could also refer to as muscle memory, like being able to tie your shoes. Fight or flight would be an implicit behavior, an automatic behavior. Yep. Okay. Being able to tie your shoes. Pretty much all of us could probably tie our shoes with our eyes closed. We just know how to do it. And then conditioned associations, right? Pavlov's dog, understanding that when the bell rang, that meant that they were about to get food. You know, we talked last class about that we automatically encode frequency. Frequency, learning the frequency of something is a condition, is something that is conditioned. Because if one thing happens a lot, then something else happens right after it. That's classical conditioning. Hippocampus is not involved in implicit memories. Two areas of the brain that are involved, though. And these are, and again, these are, both of these areas of the brain are non-conscious areas, meaning these are areas that consciousness comes from the cerebral cortex. The cerebellum, back here, which does a lot of the processing and storing of classical conditioning associations. And then the area called the basal ganglia, which is a lot of our motor movement. So really know the cerebellum's association with implicit memories. I doubt you'd be asked about the basal ganglia, but it was in the textbook. Okay, we're almost done, guys. All right, questions on that? All right, now, how else do we form memories? Or why are some memories way more vivid than other memories? Well, one of the big things that helps us form vivid memories is when there is an emotional component to a memory. When we are really happy, or really sad, or really excited, or really scared, or really stressed, all right, those emotions trigger the amygdala to release certain hormones and neurotransmitters that facilitate memory formation. And there's this idea that it's an old idea, it's called repression, that we basically block out traumatic memories. Is that true? Do we forget things that are traumatic to us? Well, no, we don't even, maybe we're in denial sometimes, but no. Traumatic memories tend to be more vivid than other memories because of this emotional component to it. When we are excited, stressed, whatnot, the combination of different stress hormones, glutamate, and then the brain using more glucose. By using more glucose, it becomes more active, which means it's able to process more. It helps us form more vivid memories. More stress, more excitement, stronger memory. What's interesting, when we are scared, have you all ever noticed when you're scared, NTMS are neurotransmitters? When we are, in a scary scene in a movie, it feels like it goes on forever, even if it's very short, right? That's because when we are frightened and things like that, the amygdala actually lays down an extra set of memories there, which helps the brain slow down. That's why they talk about in car accidents, how it seems like time slows down, because the amygdala in those is laying down an extra set of memories there. And so that's why emotional memories tend to be more vivid. Okay. All right, now, these very vivid emotional memories from your life. Have you all ever noticed that you have some very vivid memories that almost look like it's like a snapshot in your mind? It's like a picture, you have an image of something, and you're like, this is like the memories, like, I remember where I was when blah, blah, blah happened. These types of memories are what are called flashbulb memories. Flashbulb memories are explicit memories that are emotionally significant. Clear memory of an emotionally significant moment. They can be personal or they can be global. And by global, I mean, like, for instance, like, everybody probably remembers where, like, turning on the TV for the like last Wednesday and watching at the storming of the Capitol building. All right, that's an emotionally significant moment. All right, and that's a moment that you probably for the rest of your life are going to say, like, I remember where I was. I have a very vivid memory of watching this because it is an emotionally significant thing. So that would be an example of like one of these that's like a global thing, but it could also be something personal. Like, who has a vivid memory of, your first kiss? Right? Yeah. All right. Anybody who has had a first kiss so far, hopefully you do. Hopefully you weren't like blackout drunk and you know, and I'm 33 and I still remember it. Okay. Uh, could be, yeah. Um, could be maybe because you had fun, or maybe it could be because you've seen a picture of it. But is there a picture of you all at the water park? Oh, okay. So that yes, that would be a flashbulb memory. All right. Avanti said like the moment you first heard of coronavirus. Yes. Okay. Or the day, like think about like everybody probably remembers the day that they shut everything down. It was March 13th. It was either the 13th or the 16th. I can't remember. All right. I have a very vivid memory from last year of like I was in the mall area after senior boards and I looked at my phone and I was like, holy shit, they've canceled the NCAA tournament. And that was the moment where like things like I feel like got real. Okay. Can anybody think of any other good examples of things that might be flashbulb memories? You remember telling your friend Trump won in the school hall in sixth grade. Yep. All right. Arnav says a really fun birthday party. Yeah. Um, Arian says, so for you all, it's not, because none of you all were alive, but for people my age and older, 9/11 is one of those. Like, I remember exactly where I was when I first heard that something had happened and exactly where I was when I first saw it on TV, because I was in ninth grade. All right. Are there any other ones that stick out to anybody? Any personal ones or global ones? All right. Yep. Passing of relatives. Yep. All right. Anything like any of those big moments, the Beirut explosion. Yep. All right. Your dog dying. Yep. Okay. All right. It's really just any of these that are emotionally significant. And it's almost like our brain takes like a snapshot of that moment. All right. Last thing. Gone longer than I wanted to. How does our brain store long-term memories? Well, we've talked about this before, but learning causes permanent changes to our synapses, right? And learning obviously causes memories. Learning leads to permanent changes in our synapses. As we learn something, the neurons that are involved in it become more and more efficient in communicating with each other. So if you look right here, here we have a diagram of that's a dendrite, and then that's an axon terminal. And that's before learning has occurred. Down here, we have that same dendrite and that same axon terminal. But what do you notice has happened? Okay, they both expanded. This dendrite has grown more dendritic spines. And this axon terminal has formed more synaptic connections with that dendrite, right? This is where they believe memories are stored, right? Memories are stored through a process called long-term potentiation, or LTP, in the synaptic gaps between neurons. And just think of neurons as like when you meet somebody new, you sit down next to somebody, first day of class, you don't know each other, maybe you start talking and it's a little bit awkward. But then the more you talk, the easier it becomes. And by the end of the year, you're both just frolicking around together. Neurons are the same way, right? When neurons first start communicating, it's awkward, but then the more they communicate, the more efficient the communication becomes. All right. Oh. Anybody have any questions about that? Sorry, I was hoping to be done about 10 minutes ago, but it took a little longer. Okay, guys. So next class, we're going to talk about retrieval, how we get things once information's in long-term memory, how do we get it back out into our working memory? Yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to stay on, but if not, you're free to go, and I will see you all on Thursday. Goodbye. See ya. Goodbye. You're welcome. Goodbye.